State Representative and founder of Pine Street Strategies. All right. Thank you guys for talking to us. Let me just ask you first, Don, any chance that tax reform is going to happen in this year?
No. That's the very short answer, but tax reform is a very iterative and complicated process. The last time it happened was 1986, and that started with ideas and bills that were filed as far back as 1979, which, by the way, was a very good year. So I've been around a few years now. I've seen the Camp draft and Orion draft coming out of the House Ways and Means Committee, and we have not seen, we've seen some good ideas come from those tax reform drafts, but we've not seen a substantial congealing of ideas around what's contained within those so that we can pass a bill in the last 5 months of this legislative calendar year. So what we will probably see is a series of tax cuts for individuals, high net worth individuals and corporations that will probably be stuck into some of the necessary bills for government to remain funding and the debt ceiling and such through the end of the calendar year, but we will not see comprehensive tax reform this calendar year.
Okay, Beverly, Speaker Ryan is a lot more optimistic than Don is regarding getting this done. He says that he hopes a final version of the health care bill, that plan will be approved this summer so Congress can turn its attention to tax reform in the fall. The question is, does the delay on health care jeopardize tax reform? Ryan says no. What say you?
Yeah, I definitely think it makes it difficult because one of the reasons why health care reform was even discussed before tax reform was because of the Obamacare taxes that Republicans wanted to repeal. So that does affect the tax reform plan that was built on that. But here's the thing, is that Republicans not only do care about tax reform, they also need a legislative victory in 2017. If they go throughout this whole year having the House, having the Senate, having the White House, and aren't able to have major reforms on health care and tax reform, that could be disastrous for them in 2018.
And Don, if a health care bill doesn't happen, then, I mean, is it unrealistic for the GOP to think that they can successfully accomplish one without the other? I mean, in other words, if you keep Obamacare taxes as is, since most of them are health care based taxes, then can you really reform taxes? I mean, do you need one before the other?
You don't need to do Obamacare before you do tax reform. Remember that the Republican majority had to make a very authentic choice at the beginning of this year, and for political reasons, I suspect they chose to go with Obamacare first. So you don't really need to do one instead of the other. However, tax reform is an unwieldy beast. There's personal side as well as corporate side, which combine to form comprehensive tax care reform. And so many unintended consequences happen when you deal with one element on the personal side that might affect something on the corporate side. There need to be pay-fors. The pay-for just can't be speculative growth. There's virtually no way. And I think that both sides agree that we need this to happen in order for America to remain competitive on the global economic scale. But there's virtually no way that we have literally the clock in this calendar year to complete it.
You know, Beverly, many Republicans have said that a tax overhaul would be more difficult if Congress doesn't move on health care changes first. But Republicans' health care bill would actually bring nearly $1 trillion in tax cuts, which the GOP is counting on to make tax code changes that would bring in less money. How do they go about doing that?
Well, as Speaker Ryan said, that when it comes to health care and it comes to tax reform, it's about revenues. So they need to figure out how that's going to be. And another part that hits on this revenue side, it's not just Obamacare taxes, but it's something known as the border adjustment tax. And this is about imports and taxing imports. For those who like Donald Trump, it seems like they may not like this side of it too much. What you're really seeing is that Republicans, even Senator Tom Cotton, said he would not vote for any tax reform that had this element in it. But yet House Republicans are pushing for it. So there is a lot of battle. There are a lot of battles up ahead. But here's the thing. Once again, if Republicans don't move forward with something, I think it will be bad for them in 2018.
Okay, what does this do to the future elections? Because, you know, these midterms are riding on a lot of these congressmen and congresswomen out there. Their constituents are furious. They want to see something done. So then moving forward, Don, I mean, how do you vote on something like this, knowing that basically your seat in office rides on it?
It will be very difficult, and it will be a true test of folks' partisan values. If you remember in 2009, many borderline moderate Democratic members of Congress had to take a very difficult vote that they knew would probably cost them their seats. I don't think that a tax reform vote costs a member of Congress his or her seat, but I do think that perhaps a health care reform vote, if we are able to get to that in this calendar year, would. But again, Bev is right. If we are not able to complete Obamacare repeal and replace, if Republicans are not, and then they're not able to complete tax reform, they go into next year, which is virtually a do-nothing year because it's a midterm year, without a major legislative victory, and that in overall could be very devastating to Republican chances of keeping the majority.
All right, that's all the time we have. Beverly, Hallberg, thank you. Don Calloway, appreciate
Thanks
you
for having
coming
us.
on. Kelly.
Alligators are known hazard in Florida at many golf courses.